next guest today is calling for tough love and a double hemlock on the rocks. Right now we're joined by Dennis Gartman. He's the founder of the Gartman letter. Of course, our guest host, Jim Grant, is here as well. And Dennis, I don't know if you've been listening to that conversation as it's kind of kicked up this morning. What do you think about what's happening?
Well, I think it's very confusing to everybody. It is hard to say no once you've said yes for the first time. And the problem was that Paulson came to us, said we need $700 billion to take care of the banking system. I thought that was absolutely what needed to be done. But now you've got General Motors asking for money. You're going to have, I want to ask for some money. I can use some. You're down to that level, and it's confusing to the market, and confusion breeds contempt, and that's what happened yesterday.
How do you explain it to Main Street, though? There are a lot of people who think that what we've done so far is say, yes, we will agree to bail out the banks, but that's where it stops.
Yeah.
Forget about it for anybody else, including heavy industry.
Becky, it's very politically difficult to explain it to Main Street, and that's really quite the problem here.
Well, explain it to me.
Well, I mean, I think we needed to bail out the financial market because we were freezing up 4.5 weeks ago. It looked like we weren't going to have any money to draw from the ATMs of the world.
Right.
It looked like we were not, and nobody is, in fact, lending right now, but it looked like lending was going to come to a grinding halt. You need to keep the banks going because without them, you're really not going to have agriculture working. You're not going to have automobiles working. You're not going to have retail trade working. But now you have the automobile companies saying, look, we want in also. And it's very hard politically to say, no, you've had problems for 40 years and you've not fixed your own problems thus far. The banking system has had a problem now for the past year, and we're going to absolve that one. Politically, it's very difficult.
But it's the same argument about, why should I help a homeowner that's not doing everything that I did here? Yeah. And you say, well, because your neighborhood is going to fall into disrepair, and it's going to affect you too. If you let these jobs go at GM, Dennis, it just makes things a lot worse in the recession.
Oh, it does. There's not a question about that. I mean, the problem is, what if you do let Detroit go? Do you just turn your back upon Detroit? I mean, Detroit's got real problems. It's had problems for years.
But a prepackaged bankruptcy is different than letting it go, too, isn't it?
That's correct. They can function in bankruptcy just like the airlines have functioned in bankruptcy. And General Motors its only chance, actually, is to go bankrupt, get out from under the union problems that it has had, and be able to really look at itself and fix itself. So there's some real benefit to letting it go into bankruptcy, but you're not going to let it dissolve into nothingness.
And here you just said union problems, and we're going to have an EFCA that the vice president and the president-elect have both co-authored this bill to make unions even stronger, and now you're just saying that GM is having these problems because of union problems.
Well, that's one of the problems of this incoming administration, isn't it? They're going to allow the unions to vote themselves in methods that have not been used in the last 50 years or so, and that I find disconcerting. It was one of the reasons why I was not a supporter of the Obama administration to begin with.
Jim, what do you think about what Paulson's doing now in terms of shifting the focus, saying, okay, forget about some of these troubled assets. We're not going to buy that, but we are going to try and fix the loan systems, everything from student loans to auto loans. What do you think about that?
Regardless of the merits of the new focus, I think that the problem is this ever-shifting focus. It's as if, Hank, the football player, is at the line of scrimmage calling audibles. The rule of law seemed precarious enough before this last switch. He has so much power. He has so few checks on that power. And he can't seem to make up his mind. I so feel for him and for the people who work for him. Apparently they haven't slept since Labor Day. It's a hard job they have, but if it were easy, the Soviet Union would not have gone into receivership. The central planning business, or variations on the theme, is a really hard line of work.
Although I'll give him, Dennis, I'll give him a little bit of credit with the idea that when you realize the plan is not working, you must change it. You must go along with the conditions. And we all know how quickly things have been changing.
Oh, absolutely. I did think that his line yesterday, when the facts change, I change. It's one of my favorite lines in trading. When the facts change, you must change. But
What facts change? What facts change? That's what I didn't understand yesterday, Dennis.
Oh, I think the facts changed that retail literally did fall off the cliff. That automobile sales, but we knew that was going to happen.
Suddenly, all these assets gumming up the system, that didn't change.
Well, no. Well, it did. The
What
reality
changed was I
of
think
it.
they figured they couldn't do it, right?
No, I think the data came in. I think they hoped that fact wouldn't change, that those facts would not be as egregiously ugly as they have become.
Or change as quickly as they changed.
And they have. They literally fell off the edge of a cliff.
But Dennis,
and I think it caught everybody off guard. Yeah, Jim.
Dennis, the rationale initially was that that mortgage securities and these mortgage-backed bonds of all kinds were illiquid, unsaleable, and that with a little bit of bidding from the federal government, that market would lift and residential housing activity would resume. So how has that changed, if at all?
No, it hasn't. I mean,
is there simply not enough money to do all at once? And you know, can't the government get all the money at once by knocking on the door of the Federal Reserve?
It can go and print it if it wishes. You know that, Jimmy. And that's the fear. But the gold bugs are trying to figure out why that isn't working also. So, I mean, this is a very confusing time. And I think you had a great point. These guys are in one of the worst positions imaginable. Would you want that job? No, because no matter what you do, you're going to be taken to task for it. You're going to make somebody angry somewhere. You're going to leave somebody off someplace. And the problem is, once we did say yes, it's hard to say no.
And now I haven't seen an announcement from the new administration about the Treasury Secretary either. No. And they're between a rock and now I don't think they can do Geithner because of this. They go back on the original TARP.
No, and they're reconsidering Summers.
And then that ridiculous Summers, the Harvard thing where he was asked to be controversial, say something controversial.
I think the bigger problem with that whole thing is, look, you didn't realize that was out there. It's something that's been very much front and center. If you're just realizing that stuff was out there about Summers, then you're just now vetting this?
I know that.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen at Rutgers, would it, Big?
No, probably not. Probably not.
Well, who then? So I think, can either one of those, maybe it is Corzine.
Well, maybe it's Volcker, maybe it's Corzine.
That's
maybe I think right now they're just biding their time, sitting quietly, and not wanting to talk too loudly. Well,
Volcker, talk about tough love. I mean, what will he give how much of a government interventionist would he be?
No, he just comes in with a very big stick and whacks everybody pretty hard.
He's got so much credibility. He's like 8 feet tall, too. So, I mean, at least he was, but he is getting up there.
Walking in with a big stick and having surrounded by that cigar smoke and being 18 feet tall, he can get everybody's attention fairly quickly.
That might be the way to go. That might be the way to go. Of course, McCain was only 70. What was he, 72? And he's a pillory him for that.
Yeah.
Bringing in an 81-year-old guy now as your treasurer.
You start looking around at what's happened with the markets, and you want somebody who's probably been around for a while and has seen this stuff happen.